Hello and welcome to episode 114 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we're your source for weekly drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right, just a couple of regular dudes drinking some irregular beers and talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular, the online client MTG Arena.
And this week is our on draft episode for March of the Machines, which means we're talking all about draft, of course. That's the joke. Um,
Yeah,
it's a pretty good one. Anyway, but each week
smooth.
we both bring a beer. We drink Jeff's, then drink mine, rate them on a scale of bronze to mythic, and choose the best for last. So, with that, Jeff, what's on tap?
All right, I'm super excited to announce this week that we have a little bit of a tap takeover coming up.
Bum,
So,
bum,
for the
bum.
folks who don't know, tap takeover means we'll be featuring a bunch of beers from the same brewery over the next couple of episodes. And this is one we're super excited about because we've actually had it on the show before.
Hmm.
I think we had a saison by them, but correct me if
Yes.
I'm wrong. And this is Little Beasts. Um,
Hmm.
I'm excited for this one because all the beer they have sounds cool. I really like their packaging and their like just label design. And the saison we had from them was really good. So I figured I'd start us off with the most normal thing of the beers that we bought from them. So I said, Zach, go get the most normal one.
Hmm.
And I did the same, and we both came back with the same beer, which is called Henny, and it's
Penny.
just a Belgian blonde. Of note, though, it is kind of big. It's 6.5%. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Surprising. Was thinking it would be 4.5%. That tends to
right.
be what we're looking
When I
for.
said normal, I was assuming, five,
Yeah.
five plus or minus half a percent.
However, I think um, saying calling it normal is actually it makes a lot of sense because the other beers you will see everyone in the
Yeah.
future episodes how different they are and non-normal. Um, but anyway, Jeff, let's crack it open.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited for Little Beasts. When we had it was their table saison, and it
Mhm.
was
It was
delicious.
good.
I think
Yeah.
after drinking that beer in that episode, we had decided we wanted to do a tap takeover. So
Yeah.
we finished all the beers we had lined up and then jumped into it. Alrighty, Jeff. Well, we have some magic news. This weekend, May 5th to the 7th, in Minneapolis, is Pro Tour March of the Machine. 250 pro players are going to be battling it out for their spot at the World Championship. And they're playing Mom, Draft, and Standard. Um, which I think is great. That'll be good. Um,
Yeah. And it's just perfect timing because so if you guys are playing in the Pro Tour next week, anyone listening at home, listen to our breakdown to figure out how to draft the set.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And we'll probably talk a little bit about that next week as well and see what the pros drafted and see how different it was from what we were talking about. Um, but
Suspect it's going to be quite different, but we'll
yeah,
get to that.
we'll get to that. But it is, it's, I just love how quick the Pro Tour comes after the set comes out. Like it just makes
Mhm.
sense. William Huey Jensen really fixed everything, man.
No nonsense. Yeah, they
Mhm.
waffled around on this for a while, and everyone loved the like Pro Tours 2 weeks after set release, and then they just decided to go back. And I
Mhm.
guess when Huey came in, he was like, "No, everyone clearly 2 weeks after is the best. Like everyone
Yeah.
loved that. Let's do that."
Yeah, it just makes sense. It's the freshest ideas people have. Like you have to be very creative and get all your deck ideas together early and then see maybe the first two don't work and then you're scrambling for the third or whatever. Like it's just much more
Although
interesting.
to be fair to Wizards, I think one of their criticisms of the immediate Pro Tour was the format gets solved too fast,
Hmm.
which at the time was like, okay, I guess that's fair. But now it's like format gets solved that fast anyways these
Yeah.
days with Arena and like just so many people playing and sharing their information. So now there's no reason not to. But at the
Hmm.
time, maybe they had a bit of a point that the format could last a little longer if they wait to reveal what the best players in the world
Have
figured out.
decided are the best things. That's true. I do get that, but um I don't know. I think sometimes the like meta is solved is also it's also something that people say just not to continue working on things. Um,
Yes.
it's
Yeah,
just like
definitely
oh,
agree.
it's already solved. It's 4 months or 4 weeks in, and there's just no point in trying anything else. These are the decks, and that's it. As opposed to finding new interesting things to do, new versions of different shells that like all that kind of stuff that people kind of just stop doing. So anyway,
Yeah.
I think there are multiple ways you can go about that. But I'm excited it's back. I probably won't be able to watch a lot of it because I'm pretty busy this week. As you can probably see, I am in the middle of moving. That's what all this stuff is. So I'm moving in a couple days. So hopefully I'll be able to watch some of it. Um, but in any case, happy it's back.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Hmm.
excited for it. And the fact that it's standard should also be fun.
Yeah. I also loved the last one so much. So, like,
Yeah.
yeah, just so nice. Anyway, Jeff, let's get started talking about draft because the set has come out and all I've been doing is drafting so I can collect cards I want to play for in standard as well as obviously drafting is my favorite format. So I'm doing that a lot. However, as you may have heard last episode and you may know that I have not been having a great time with this set and my struggles have continued to
Mm.
be it's not just struggles that I'm losing. It's just that I'm not having the best time. So I just want to say that up front. Yeah, because I don't want to dive too deep into it because it could like I've been already grinding myself. But mainly I just want to tell everyone like, hey, this totally happens. It's been a long time since I've had like a stint of just like I am just not doing it. I'm not having a good time. Like it's that
Yeah.
meme. Like I am not having a good time right now. Like I'm literally playing Magic.
Right.
Like I, there are nights where I'm like, you know what? I'm just not going to draft because I'd rather be watching a TV show,
Because fuck
which
it. Yeah.
just doesn't happen very often. So, um,
There was a now that I'm thinking about it, it was kind of a long time ago, but like semi recently, but that was the same thing for me. It was like I'm just not having fun, so then I'm just going through the motions during the draft, which then causes me to lose more, which then
exactly,
makes it harder to break out of the not having fun thing. Because like
exactly.
at least for me, having fun and winning are not the same thing, but they're correlated.
Yeah,
And if you are having a lot of fun, you'll tend to win more just because you're more engaged, and vice versa. If you're winning a lot more, you just naturally will have more fun because hey, it's more fun to win than to lose.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I feel you, man. I've been in that situation. That is not me with this set. I have a super super secret strategy that, judging from this list, is the worst kept secret in the world.
Hmm.
Um, but I've been winning a lot with that strategy.
Hmm.
So
Well, Jeff, just bring us into it. To give me the this episode might just be you telling me what I'm supposed to be doing. So,
okay, the secret strategy, and listeners, don't share this, especially if you want to do out the pro tour. Okay, you got to keep this one under your hat. It's the exact opposite of the secret strategy from last set, and it's draft blue.
mhm.
That's it. Just draft blue. There are so many good blue commons, and all of the blue decks are good. All of them. So just friggin' wedge your way into blue and figure it out from there.
That's really the thing that's getting me is that my brain is so hyper focused on not playing blue cards, not even from just like the last set, but like there have been multiple sets where blue is just don't even play blue.
Yeah, I feel like it's ranged from like at best it's been a decent support color for the best color. That's like
Hmm.
its highlight in recent
Exactly.
sets.
And
Um,
this time around, it makes it. The commons are awesome. Like, what is the main one that I love so much just because
I
I
don't even
want
know
to.
what the card is called, but if you're talking about the Wind Drake that makes a 1/1,
Mm,
like that's probably the best common in the set. The card, it's ridiculous. And as
it's
soon as everyone
ridiculous.
sees it, like it's not a secret, right? As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, Wind Drake comes with a 1/1 now. How far we've come.
Exactly.
But everyone knows that card is stupid.
Yeah.
Even new players, because new players love Windrake, so they're going to take it. And then the good players are like, oh, two bodies for the price of one. Yeah, card's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, it's called Preening Champion. And
Mm.
we had seen a card similar to that in Midnight Hunt that made like a zombie token that we were
Yeah,
like, this is bonkers.
right.
Um, and that one
And
was
the
great,
one is
but
better than the
yeah.
Decayed Zombie.
And the one is definitely better than the Cade Zombie. And I think we talked about this card last episode, but like the fact that this card's a fucking bird knight just pisses me off. Like you don't
Yeah.
have to make it work for all the decks. Just make it
Yeah.
like
Didn't have to be a knight. And they do so many weird things where they just change a creature's type because it'd be too silly. Like this could have been one of those instances where it's randomly like a bird soldier because it's not gonna be played in constructed.
yeah, like it doesn't. There's literally a white card, one of the backup white, the Bola guy who
Mm-hmm.
he has backup one, yeah, Bola Slinger. That's a cat soldier, and
Yep.
why can't this be just a bird soldier? I don't understand why they. I don't know. Anyway, so that's it. Doesn't really matter. It's not a huge gripe, but like what? Um, but one of the cards I was thinking about is that like I was just getting blown away constantly by Afara's Dispersal, just like
Yeah.
all over the
Yeah.
place. This card's just
Yeah.
like,
Card's very good. It basically plays the role of removal in your deck.
uh-huh,
It's often that I will like I've cut legitimate removal spells for that card
mhm,
because a lot of the legitimate removal spells just aren't as good. Like
yeah,
this card, I guess. So before we jump into the archetypes and all of the blue decks you want to draft,
mhm,
um, I guess the thing to know about this format is I don't think it's fast. I was looking at 17 lands data and like all the numbers suggest this is super fast. I haven't found that myself. Um, but tempo is huge.
yes,
So this is like a modern magic set. Okay. 2 drops matter. 2 drops always
mhm,
matter now. We shouldn't have to tell you that anymore, but we'll tell you again.
mhm,
Draft 2 drops. This is a set that's not that fast, but if you fall behind, you're dead in the water. And as far as dispersal is one of the reasons why. And the knight that bounces something like if you fall behind, then you're just going to get out tempoed by these awesome tempo cards.
yeah,
Um, so basically, like you should be distinctly aware of Afara's dispersal. Maybe your opponent has a blue mana up, an attack seems great. Maybe you just don't make that attack. Like
because
it's just not worth it.
yeah, because you can see it fairly often where you're just like looking at their mana, and my brain is just like, what are they gonna do with one blue? Like counter a spell, and like
Yeah.
constantly. So
Anyways, I'll attack and then they'll think about what they could have. It's like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah, and that
mhm,
happens
mhm.
all of the time. It's also a great aggressive card because you just get blockers out of the way. For 3 mana, it doesn't even feel that bad because you're also surveilling to
Exactly.
get the lands off the top of your deck or fix your draws when you don't have enough lands. Because it's really great defensively when they're attacking you and you don't have the right colors or anything, or you're looking for something specific. It's great. Buys a lot
I
of
actually
time.
really like the design of the card because it doesn't let you do the 2 spells in 1 turn thing on offense.
Hmm.
It lets you do it on defense, which is like a huge comeback mechanic.
Yeah.
Um, in principle, in terms of its design, the way it tends to play out is you just play something slightly off curve on your aggro draw, and then your opponent ever decides to attack, then
Yeah.
they're just going to lose the game. If you read this card and didn't think it was good, uh, the one thing I'll say is like the 3 mana seems expensive, but like Zach just said, in the situation where you want it, it doesn't feel expensive because it's just whenever you're using a bounce spell to bounce a blocker, it's amazing. Like all the
Hmm.
situations where you're not bouncing an attacker, 3 mana is fine. It's like they put an aura on it and you're going to 2-for-1 them, or like you're just getting a blocker out of the way to
Yeah.
kill a battle or to kill them.
Or it's a
Three
token or
mana is
something.
not
It's
expensive for that.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's a ton of like Phyrexians running around that are just tokens, so you just like bounce them into oblivion. which
And the
is
other thing I'll say is you're probably undervaluing Surveil if you didn't think this card looked good, because
yes,
one blue mana bounce something Surveil one is ridiculous.
it's Surveil
It's very good.
two,
Or yeah,
two.
sorry, Surveil two.
It's so good.
Why
Um,
is it two?
I don't
Anyways,
know. It's because
my
that makes it
brain
great.
always auto corrects it, and then I get to look at two cards. I'm like, what?
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, those are a couple of reasons why blue is fantastic. But the top of the blue decks, which is not the one I was expecting, we're going by 17 lands data. This is their if you go to their website, and if you don't know 17 lands, just look it up. But it's basically just something that takes all the data from all the different 17 lands users when they're drafting on Arena and gives you different percentages for each card, color, almost anything you can think about. So we're just going down a list that they have there about. We're just picking two color combinations and basically the highest to the lowest in win percentage, which also separates the splashes out. So these are decks that only have these two colors. I don't know splashing anything. Just if you have any little questions about the numbers on it. But overall, it's all kind of the same anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But the first deck is the Dimir deck, the blue-black graveyard deck, which kind of has a mill sub-theme. And it's 58.9% win rate, which is good. That's like top of the charts. And now I was kind of surprised to see this because I was, first of all, just thinking Knights was like the best deck. It just, that's the one that runs me over all the time. But for sure, like going back and looking at like all the different black cards. I mean, we were just talking about how good blue is, but all the black like rares are, all of them are good. Like there aren't any real duds like anywhere. It's just like banger, 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 banger. You know?
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things, like Breach into the Multiverse is a card I got at the pre-release, which I thought that's the 7-mana sorcery that each player mills 10 cards, and then you get to pick a creature or planeswalker in each player's graveyard and put it on the battlefield under your control. That looked like a card that was going to be like not really worth playing. 7-mana sorcery, not very good. Ends up being still a fucking bomb. Like awesome card. You can mill your opponent out with it and steal shit, and it's great. Just
yeah. So I'm with you. I was kind of expecting blue white to top the list because that's been my experience. I wonder how much of this is blue white is not a secret in the sense that like the Knights deck is kind of obviously amazing. And so there might be some cannibalism going on here where too many people are trying to draft the blue-white deck, and the people who draft blue-black just are ending up with a higher win rate because the deck's very good and fewer people are drafting it. The other thing is Invasion of Amonkhet's really good. It reminds me of Disinformation Campaign for all you oldies who have played way back in the day, but the U discard I draw feels so much stronger than Divination or Mind Rot for some reason.
Yes.
I guess like Mind Rot, obviously, kind of sometimes you only get one card out of them. That sucks. But this card just feels really strong. Yeah, blue black is really good. I think they do have the mill sub theme. When I've played this deck once and I've played against it a few times. Generally, I'm just like taking good blue cards and rounding it out with, like you said, rares or uncommon black cards, or just removal, like Vanquish the Weak or Final Flourish. Super good one to be throwing around in these decks.
Yeah,
I don't tend to super like dive really hard into the theme.
Yeah, for sure. I like that we do have like this this mill sub theme, and that you can mill people out. It is possible, but the card I was just talking about, the Breach in the Multiverse, is a big way you can do that. But a lot of the cards do say mill each player, because in throughout Magic's past, a lot of time it's like mill target player or your opponent, or mill yourself, or all that stuff. And it's kind of nice when it's just like, you know what, this just says each player mills 3 when it enters it's easy, um, and you don't really have to like decide. Oh, is it better to mill my opponent or not at this point? Let's just have. I like that shortcut, honestly. Just like we mill both players, we're we're on the road to do that. Um, I don't know, like I don't really see the numbers for this card, but I have loved Halo Forager, and it's the reason I've played this deck at any point. My
Okay.
versions were not fantastic, but I do like this card.
Mhm.
Mainly because I wanted to go on our Rogues deck for Explorer. Because I'm like, ooh, look at this fairy rogue, 3 mana, like kind of snapcaster or something. Not, it doesn't have flash, so you can't do counter spells. But I have enjoyed that. Being able to play your final flourishing again from your graveyard, super awesome. Anything that's super cheap makes it
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, that card's great too. So yeah, the blue black uncommons are strong. Blue
Mhm.
is where everyone wants to be, and it has such deep commons. Like the thing about blue is some of the super suspicious looking commons are they've been like going up and up in my ratings. Like, what's the stupid thing that comes down and gives backup and hexproof or whatever? It like flashes in.
Yeah. Okay. Do you like that card?
That has
The
been surprisingly, it's gone up and up in my ratings because I've gotten hosed by it a bunch of times, and so now I'm starting to take it myself.
Yeah, so it's
Um,
Saiba Cryptomancer, and it's a Moonfolk Ninja, which I also think it'd be fun in a ninja deck. But I had seen this going around, and initially thought this card was awesome. And so then I think what was happening and why my brain was getting so confused is that I was like, this card is sweet, and I'll like pick it, and then I'm like, wait, I'm getting these way late. And then like my blue decks would have too many of those and not enough of the other cards, and for whatever reason, I was like not getting. I was like missing what the good blue cards were for whatever reason, and like
right.
never singing Preen Champions. But I am taking a million like Afara's Dispersals. But then I have that card. It just felt like kind of disjointed and all over the place. So I'm like playing blue decks that are losing, so it makes me feel like blue's bad. But like I'm not losing to blue decks, but I'm losing to white decks a lot, and like all that kind of stuff is getting.
Mhm.
That's why this is so hard for me because I feel like the numbers. I like it's the first time I feel so out of the loop. Like I'm like, what is happening? Um,
Yeah.
so I think it makes a lot more sense as you're laying it out to me. But like, I just want to be honest, folks. Like I am having like a magic crisis. I'm not even kidding. Like it's been
Starting to look
rough.
for other games to play and start podcasts about.
Yeah, it's been really, the last couple weeks have been pretty rough. But no, I do like Cybo Cryptomancer. Um, because it's a protection spell. Look at that thing. It's great.
Exactly. See, for me, it was the exact opposite. I read it. I'm like, oh, so it's like a dumb green protection spell, but for some reason it's a blue card. Pass.
Hmm.
It happened enough times that I like, or a couple times that I target something, this comes down, it gives a counter. It's like winning combat, and then I can't do anything about it. And I'm just like, oh, that was a bummer. Um, and then to the point where I started being like, oh, wait, they could have that 2 drop here. I got to
Hmm.
think about this. And then my experience has been usually when you start playing around a card like that because you accept that you're basically accepting that it's powerful because you're sort of like, oh, what if they have that? Oh no, I have to change my. That would be too bad for me. I gotta like play suboptimally so as to play like once you start doing that, you've kind of acknowledged that this card is pretty good. So maybe that means you should be taking it.
Yeah.
So now I'm in this state where, like, don't get me wrong, it's not the best blue common or anything. It's just one of the biggest jumps for me from
Hmm.
like probably pass it around at the end of the pack to I'm gonna take this early to middle of the pack
Yeah,
if
for
I'm
sure.
if I'm in blue. The other one that's kind of surprised me is I have it here, so I'll get the name right this time. Eyes of Gataxius.
I was just about to talk about this card.
This card doesn't suck. This card doesn't suck.
I am so this is a card that I have never cast myself. I've
Mhm.
never purposely picked in the draft when I was playing blue, and I've actually never seen anyone else cast it. Now, I think it's because of where I am right now. Like my tier is really low. I'm in like
Ah,
gold or something, and it also looked terrible. It looked terrible to me.
it does look bad. Yeah, I thought it was awful as well.
Like it looks like hot garbage. So this is the like tuna blue sorcery, incubate 3, and then draw a card.
Mhm.
And it just, I don't know what it is about it, but it looked terrible. But tell us why it's good.
It plays a lot more like a 3/3 for 3 draw card than it seems like it does.
Hmm.
You end up having the 2 mana at some point. Like Incubate is just, I think, better than I thought it was going to be. Um, and the fact that you get to activate it kind of whenever you want um, really helps. It like can dodge sorcery speed removal and stuff like that, which there's a healthy amount of sorcery speed removal that your opponent was probably like waiting on, or maybe even they held up instant speed removal for your 3 drop.
Hmm.
And then you just play this, and it's like, oh, now they have to untap, having wasted that mana, and uh, you're still going to have your 3/3 at some point. Like they're still going to trade that card probably
Hmm.
for your 3/3, but they don't get to do it on their terms. It just ends up, it's just one of those cards that ends up playing better than it looks. And this is one of the reasons where I'm like, the format's not that fast because in a blazing fast format, you can't play this card.
No.
So it's really more about tempo, and you can lose quickly if you fall behind rather than it being an innately fast format.
Yes, which is probably why it doesn't immediately make me excited. It doesn't, like, I want to build blazing fast decks that just rip people apart and they can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a big learning experience for me to just like calm down, play those. And the thing with the incubate as well is that like I have been getting screwed enough by transforming my incubates just because I can. And I think there's a good, like today literally I was playing a game where my opponent had played the the white enchantment, Phyrexian Awakening, that like incubates 4 and then just has gives your
Oh
Phyrexian
yeah,
vigilance. And then on the next turn, instead of transforming it, because I had a bunch of 2/2s, I was like, they're gonna just have a 4/4, so that's gonna suck. They just played another card that incubated something and had no creature still. And so that was like red flag, like, oh shit, they have a board wipe, because there are a lot of
board
board
wipe. Yeah,
wipes in this
yeah.
format. And it's just like their creatures are just waiting for the wipe, and then they pop up. And the one they happened to have was the black one that destroys like legends or non-legends or both. And
Right.
that I was like, oh, there it is. There's the one. But though the main board wipe you're always afraid of seeing is the white one, man, that
The white one.
exiles
Yeah.
everything.
Sun, whatever.
Sunfall, that card.
Sunfall.
Yeah, I was thinking about picking that card as like a worth a slot last week, but it just seemed like possibly too easy. But in draft, it's just like
Draft is
this
ridiculous.
just
Yeah.
the shit.
Yeah, that's actually a legitimate tip in this format. Is like if your opponent seems to be building up a board state of incubates or stuff for later, but not committing creatures, there's a reasonable chance that they have a board wipe because I think
Mm.
there's 3 of them
There's yeah.
and they're at rare.
Hmm.
So it's actually not super uncommon for your opponent to have one if they're in that color, those colors, and they're like playing as though they have one. You
They
may
probably
want to
do.
stop jamming creatures onto the board,
Hmm.
especially since if they're not playing creatures, just keep attacking them.
Yeah,
Wait, like make them cast it. Um, yeah, so something to look out for. It reminded me a little bit of Amonkhet Remastered. It's not quite as crazy. I think that one had like 8 or something. It had at least 6 board wipes. So it was like you legitimately just were always worried about a board wipe. This one, not quite that, but you should be kind of on the lookout. You could sniff it out.
hmm.
And I've done it a couple of times. Um,
Yeah, but it's super
never been so
important.
lucky to have one myself, but
Hmm.
what can you
Same.
do?
I've also never had one of the board wipes, so just getting wrecked by them as usual. Um, But that's something I usually like about limited is that you don't have a bunch of board wipes to try to play around. And
Yeah.
well, not this time. But that's really fine. Though, just with that being said, maybe keep some incubates around. If you're going to commit to the board, make sure that you just leave them. Don't always transform them. You won't always be able to pressure your opponent as much as you're hoping with an extra 2/2 or 3/3. So it might be better to just like wait a while.
Yeah. Yeah, especially since they feel like they have haste, because if you do
Mm-hmm.
it later, they'll still attack. So they're the perfect thing for post board wipe, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can make your opponent board wipe while you have a few incubates out, then you're just going to untap and attack them for like 4 or 6 or 5 or
Or
whatever.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a way to help negate their super powerful card. Um,
Absolutely.
Speaking of white, though, it's a good segue into the second best performing deck.
The one
Um,
we were expecting, which is
yeah,
Knights.
yeah, or I think this, technically on 17 lands, it's blue white.
Yes.
I do think you can play blue white and not be knights. I've played against it, and I was like, oh, that was actually pretty good. It's just like a blue white kind of flyers deck,
Mm-hmm.
kind of convoking stuff, like kind of seems like they, again, similar to blue black, just took good blue cards, filled it out with some solid white cards, and like you have a good deck.
Mm-hmm.
I think you want to be knights if you're blue white for sure, because the knight synergies are crazy. But you might see
Yes.
some competition in that spot. Like the knights probably aren't flying around the table. It's quite the same way they were when, in my first draft. I don't know if that's just because I've moved up ranks or because people have stopped doing random stuff and just start taking knights.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's a lot harder to get into knights now, and you could still play white blue. You could be like blue white convoke or blue white flyers, like I said, and I think those are totally fine decks too. But obviously, knights is the highlight.
Yeah. Is what probably gives it its strength. But yeah, solid deck. Most of the cards, like, I mean, if I'm going into white blue, which I haven't had the pleasure of actually being able to really play it, even
Mhm.
though I've had many drafts where like the Lord goes around, like I've seen like 3 or 4 of
Oh,
them,
geez.
and I'm like,
I
why are
wish,
this?
man. I wish.
But like that's the only night card I see is the Lord, and I'm like, I can
But
try to
still, if
jump
you'd
into
taken
this.
like four, if you'd taken four of them,
Yeah,
it's
it
still a
just
deck.
that's true. So that kind of like has also irked me. But yeah, the night cards are fairly obvious which ones are the good ones. They say night on them. Um,
Yeah, the bounce
and
knight is super good, and
mhm.
we talked about this last week, but the 2/2 flying that does like a bunch of other shit as well, and as a knight, and it's such a ridiculous uncommon.
Yeah, it's yeah. Anyway, I frustrated by those things, but it is very good. And I do like white blue aggressive decks. It's just one of those like everybody
This is my
likes it.
favorite deck. This is like my sub in for an
Right.
all will be one. I liked red white,
Hmm.
and it was like decidedly the second best deck or tied for third or something. I feel like I'm in a similar scenario here. Everyone's gonna like agree that blue black is the best deck, and I'm just gonna come in and be like, nah, knights, that's where I want to
Hmm.
be. And I kind of like being in that spot. Like, I hope that happened. Maybe this is wishful thinking, so the knights hype dies down a little bit. Then there's everyone fighting for blue black, and I can swoop in and just play knights all the time. Um,
Yeah, that sounds great because I want to be in the exact same place.
right.
Um, so I've unfortunately just been full of packs of like red and green cards, and I'm like,
Oof, that's
just
not where
like
you want to be.
yeah, you don't want to be there. Which kind of leads us to the next like archetype that I was not expecting. This is an archetype I always think, or a color combination we always want to talk about last. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I was looking at the numbers again. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Like I do not understand. And ultimately, it comes down to blue is one of the colors in that archetype, and it is blue green. Um, it has 56.1%, and the theme, if you can call it a theme, is like transformed permanence.
It's definitely a transform theme. Everything references like transform number of transformed
Sorry,
cards. Or
I
whatever. Yeah.
mean, I mean, is that good? Is that how you're winning with this deck? I don't think so. Like, I have lost to the uncommon, the flyer.
Mhm.
Um, it's like an O5 with vigilance, and its power goes up for each transformed permanent you have. Sure,
Yeah.
yes, I have died to that because it can, even if it has like, even if it's a 2/5, it's like a really an issue. But like, I don't know. It's
No, it's actually something I wanted to bring up is like in this set, you don't want to over index to something. It's the reason like blue black and blue white are good. You don't want to overcommit to stuff like that. Like let's let's take green blue as the perfect examples, transform. The thing you don't want to do is take a whole bunch of battles because you're the transform deck.
mhm,
Um, and like that's gonna be so awesome when you transform all those battles. No, what's gonna happen is you're gonna draw two or three battles and like a single creature. You're never gonna transform any of them, and it
mhm.
doesn't matter. And then you'll have these cards that are only good if you have enough transformed permanents, like uh the Drake.
Yeah.
Don't play the Drake unless you already have a bunch of good transformers. Don't take the Drake and think, oh, the one that if it dies and you have a transformed
Oh,
permanent, you draw a card.
all right.
Otherwise, it's like snapping Drake.
That card's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Mainly because I thought that it said this is all just because I don't read cards. I thought it said when it deals damage to a player if you have a transformed permanent,
That would be
draw a
quite
card.
different.
Because that seemed like it seemed hard enough to have a transformed like whatever. And so I
That
was
payoff is worth it.
yeah, and it also was confusing because it's like Invasion of Kamigawa or something. Like freeze is one of their creatures, but then when you flip it, it turns into a flyer that when it deals damage to a player, you draw a card. And so I had both of those, thinking, oh, this one's transformed, and then this one. So I thought that that would happen. I was like, why am I not drawing two cards? I'm like, oh, it's because that's not what that
It's
card
this
says at all.
card I drafted sucks.
Yeah, it fucking
Yeah, like
sucks.
we're past the days of snapping Drake being good. And if you take this
Mhm.
card, you're taking snapping Drake.
Yeah,
So don't do that.
it's bad.
Um, green blue is a good deck because blue is good.
Hmm.
And you just take the good blue cards. You take the best green cards you see. And if you happen to have a few things that synergize in this transforming stuff, great.
Hmm.
But don't go into the draft thinking I'm going to build my deck because around the transform theme.
Thing.
And I would say that's just not how this format works.
Hmm.
None of the things are super all in on their theme, and you'll actually see the best decks. The decks are basically like rank ordered by just the colors with the best individual commons.
Yeah,
Like
they're
the
strong.
three best decks are blue, and then they go in order of the best secondary color, pretty much
Hmm.
like black, white, green, and then red's way down there. Like that's just how this format works. The it's a little bit of a bummer because the themes are super cool. It's just not about the themes though, because it's so tempo oriented. You don't necessarily have time to build these synergies. You just got to play cards, and so you're going to want to play the best cards your color has to offer.
Yeah, I think that's
Best
exactly what.
individual cards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that like the raw power level of these things is much more important. Though I will speak to if the transform deck is something you are interested in, as far as like having transform permanents. My suggestion to you, I haven't done this yet, but this is my hypothesis, is that battles are the worst thing to try to have. And
Yes.
Phyrexian, like you lean into all the green cards that incubate, because those are so easy. Like they all
Incubate
cost
is
two.
the best one. Yeah.
Like that's the one you want. And then the Phyrexian flippy creatures, but those usually cost like your whole turn. Incubate you can fit in wherever you want, and you can do it instant speed too. So I think that
Yep.
just that's
That's a good call out. Like you think battle when you see transform because that's the big splashy thing in the set.
mhm.
But that, to your point, is actually the worst. It's the hardest to transform of anything in the set by a lot. So just like don't think battle. Like you could put a battle in your deck if you want the front side. Like we were talking
Mhm.
about last week. If you like the front side of your battle, you could put it in your deck. If you need the back side in order to make it worth it, and you're not a super aggressive deck, should reconsider playing that battle.
Yeah, though I think battles have gone up a lot since I've recently been playing because I've been getting wrecked by them, and I think they're really strong. I think that like the cards that I thought were really important as far as like um how much the front side impacts the board has changed a little bit. I was kind of under the impression that if it doesn't make a creature or it doesn't kill something, it's not worth playing. And I don't think that's 100% true. Um, I think that if it's a card I would put in my deck, like I haven't put Invasion of Eldraine in my deck, which is the 4 mana Mind Rot, because I don't want to play 4 mana Mind Rot, and that's just normal. However, there's the red one that's like a one in red, and you discard a card and you draw 2 cards. It's like that's a card I would have 1 copy in my deck, and the backside's good. So it's just like,
I
yeah,
never play Tormenting Voice, so I'm always like,
really.
ugh.
I
Yeah.
like having one usually if I'm in something like that. It's nice to
Although
have
in
one.
this set, like that might be about the power level you can expect from a red card. So
Well, yeah, but you also have time, I think, to play it.
yeah.
Um, where sometimes it's like you don't. Um, but I will say of like green cards that I do like and think that are like probably good in this deck as well. Because usually blue green is like play really big stuff and like have giant stupid things.
Mhm.
Because you're just like ramping and drawing cards to play your big bombs. Um, the Portent Tracker, which is the one in the green 1/1 that untaps a land, or you can choose a battle and either take a defense counter off of it or put one on as a sorcery. I have been in situations where I was in a board stall with my opponent and they had 2 of those on the battlefield and they could just flip all their battles. Like they would just play battles and flip them without attacking, and it was
Right.
so annoying. And that's even just the secondary part of the card. Like the main part is that it's a mana dork.
I was gonna
Um,
say Port Tracker is amazing, but
yeah,
I forgot it had that second ability.
yeah. Which is because at the beginning of the game, it's like it's a mana dork. Especially fun in this set because we have all the common tap lands, the gain lands. And so you can like turn 3, play your gain land, and untap it with him, and then still play your 3 drop.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like an off color one. Oh, beautiful.
For some
Like,
reason, that feels better than like playing a regular land and just playing a 4 drop. Which,
mhm.
even though the 4 drop might be better, it still feels better to play the
No.
tap land, untap it, and play a three
Well, it
drop.
feels great when you're like, all right, I'm gonna play like my forest turn 1, turn 2, play a swamp, and then play your Portent Tracker. Turn 3, play the I guess this Simic one tapped, and you untap it and play a blue card. You're like, yeah,
Got him.
got there. So, but you can also see that those are the things that I find really exciting and interesting about this format, and I keep losing. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Man, is that what the best thing to do? Probably not. Play a 4 drop.
Yeah. I mean, if those are your options, right? But
Yeah, of
uh,
course. But anyway,
yeah.
um,
The other card I super like out of green is Overgrown Past. Now that we've gotten to green,
mhm.
but I don't think that's a surprise either.
No, being able to draw
Like
stuff.
it's like the pig, but
Yeah,
not as ridiculous.
yeah, it's not as big, which I liked how big the pig was, but the pest is great.
Yeah, it also doesn't have the like fail safe of. I mean,
Doing
I guess it
something
has
else.
the double faced card, but generally the this card's almost always just to hit your land drops, in
Exactly,
my experience.
which is super solid. Always good to be able to hit your land drops.
Rock solid. And
Rock
so that's
solid.
what we'll keep saying it for the whole episode, but that's how you want to build your blue green deck is take the solid blue cards on the solid green cards. Don't pick cards over better cards for synergy, but your deck will just have some synergy of that color pair.
Yeah.
So that's going to be present. So you don't really need to work for it. It's
Hmm.
just generally the payoffs aren't strong enough to warrant the hit in tempo that you'll take from playing clunky cards.
Absolutely. Um, Jeff, I think we can talk about one more deck before we go to our beer break. So let's go to the next one, which is one that I also I played this at the pre-release for the most part, but that's black green incubate.
Mhm.
So we've already talked about black. We've already talked about green. Ah, interesting. It seems like we haven't really talked about one color very much. It's very
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I
yeah. It's
can't remember
interesting.
actually. I think we hit them all. I think
Yeah,
we hit all four colors.
just about. Yeah, yeah. But anyway, I was also surprised that this deck was so high, because I I haven't really felt like this is the boogeyman. A deck that I thought was the boogeyman that I've like dealt with a bunch of times. We're going to talk about it after the beer break. So once we get there, I'll be able to explain what I think about that.
Yeah.
But like, what have you thought about black green?
So I think, and again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I've played against a lot of black green decks that were all in on like payoffs for incubate.
Hmm.
Um, you just don't need that. Incubate is good enough, right? Like, and having cards that naturally incubate is all you need. Obviously, the uncommon is ridiculous, the
Hmm.
on color uncommon, so you're going to play that. But like, again, don't take the transform cards or whatever from that are overlapping with blue green because you're an incubate deck. Take them if you don't have a better option or like they are just solid in your deck, but like cards that incubate are just good cards for the
Hmm.
most part. So I think the way to play this deck is you take the good black cards, you take the good green cards. You're going to have a lot of incubate tokens because that's just naturally going to happen. You don't need to overextend yourself and be like, oh, this card is plus one, like just it is only good if I'm able to incubate a lot or if I already have incubate tokens. That's
Yeah.
the kind of thing you want to avoid because what happens is your variance just goes up because sometimes you don't have the perfect board set up for that. You just have that creature and you're like,
Hmm.
man, I wish this was just like a 3/3 rather than this stupid thing that gets better if I have a bunch of incubates.
Or
Um,
makes my incubates better at very specific points in the game, I think too.
right when I don't have any, or
Hmm.
later it'll be useless by the time I get some.
Or I
Um,
had to like trade a couple off to survive, and so then now like they're not as good.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but black green hasn't. I mean, I haven't run into a super awesome black green deck. I actually have an open draft right now that's black green, um, but I think it has at least seven. It could be as much as eight or nine rares and mythics.
Hmm.
So it basically has nothing to do with the incubate theme. It's
It's
just like
just.
at a certain point, I kept getting past black and green. I was even in blue, obviously. I was in
Mhm.
blue black to start. And then I was like, there's so many green cards coming my way. Maybe I should. I just started taking all of the green rares, and then I got like black green rares. Then I got like a black mythic rare. So I just have this kind of dumb top heavy deck full of ridiculous cards. It does include Yargle and Multani. Um,
Nice.
because at a
Love
certain
it.
point, I was just like, we're just going to play every rare we get.
Yeah, might as
Um,
well.
but yeah, it has nothing to do with Incubate, and the deck so far is performing pretty well. Uh, so I don't know. Maybe it's just like, I think that's the biggest thing for me in this format is try to separate yourself from what the theme of the deck is supposed to be, which is the opposite of how a lot of sets have been designed recently.
Hmm.
Generally, it's like this blue card is only good in this deck.
Hmm.
It's medium in this deck and it's bad in this deck. Now it's just like this is the good blue card. You want this in all your
You
blue
want this thing.
decks.
Yeah.
Um, like preening champion. There's no blue deck that is like, nah, preening champion, not for
Not
me.
good. Yeah. It's
Like
good in all of them.
it's just not even far as far as no,
If it
no.
was a soldier, then that's a different story. So,
Yeah, even still, I think, but
yeah. Wouldn't be as good. It wouldn't
um,
turn on your fucking first striking 3-1, but.
but if I was making my like blind ratings coming into this, I don't know that I would have had black green this high. I think like they're both good colors. So again, this is just kind of confirming what I've been thinking. Is like this is just up here because these colors are one of them's good and one of them's solid. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
and that puts it in fourth place. Like that just seems like what these rankings are.
It's just like, yeah, I think it's also just it's important to know some of these numbers are like 17 land users are not like all arena users, obviously. So like they're already people that are good who are interested in tracking their like results of
Right.
stuff. And then on top of that, it's it's those people who are already enfranchised who are just good and win often. And so then we're seeing their results and what they've been seeing. So
Yeah. And to
um
like, make that clear to the viewers, the worst deck on this list has a 53.2% win rate, which
mhm.
is obviously means the player base is winning on average a lot more than 50% of their
Mhm.
games. If the worst performing deck is still winning more than it loses.
Yeah. So though this one was surprising to me, I just haven't seen a lot of like, I think it's really what you said. For the most part, looking at all these like archetypes, it doesn't ever really feel like there's a deck that's like, oh, it was 100% that archetype besides knights. Everything else tends to feel like that was a bunch of good cards. So um
Yeah. And like I said, I'm seeing people move away from knights in blue white just because they get them. Like they just
yeah.
started drafting blue and white and knights. Someone else was taking the knights, so they started taking other blue and white cards. And I think still end up in reasonable decks.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm excited to try personally is if I am going for knights but get cut out of it, instead of trying to switch colors, can I just build a different blue white deck?
I think that's great. I like that. I think that's something I need to also focus on as well. I think this whole episode is about me trying to learn how to feel better and be happy with this set because I refuse to leave being like this set sucks because I cannot do that. I refuse. I'm gonna like this set at some point. It's gonna be like
Okay.
August, and I'm gonna be like, this set's great. And you're like, yeah, because everyone stopped drafting it.
It's just me and you keep
Yeah.
beating me. Like, damn it, this set sucks.
Oh. Oh gosh. Anyway, Jeff, let's go on a beer break and grab our next beer so we
Yep,
can talk about the rest of the decks. This beer break is brought to you by our patrons over on Patreon.
that's right. You're already supporting the show just by listening, but if you want to support the show even more, Patreon is the best way to do that. Plus, you get to vote on your favorite co-host by buying me a beer.
Or buying me a beer. So go to patreon.com/arena regulars to vote on your favorite host.
Or if you'd prefer to send us beer emojis rather than IRL beers, we love those too. You can do that on the Arena Regulars Discord channel. The link should be in the show notes.
Yes, they are right down there. But Jeff, I have a beer for you tonight. Now, you brought something that was fairly normal, and I thought I would also bring something fairly normal.
Okay.
So we're gonna save all the crazy ones for the following week. So you'll have to figure out what those are later. But I brought this one, Valkyrie. It is their hazy IPA, and that is basically what I know about it. It's 5.5%, and well, I'm ready to crack it
I feel
open.
like this could be like a saga art. Whoops. For
Oh,
a
for
legitimate
sure,
magic card. Yeah.
absolutely. This does look like an alt art from like Call Time. That's like
Right.
with the
Exactly.
special
Yeah.
frame, for sure.
And it's supposed to be Valkyrie, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. All right, let's get it. Huh. But art on cans of beer really changes things for me. Oh,
For sure.
I like this color. It came off a
Yeah, it's
little,
definitely hazy.
definitely hazy.
They weren't
Um,
they weren't wrong.
They're definitely not wrong. All right. Okay. Woo-hoo. I'm just,
I don't know what
already
to make of that.
I'm just already excited about this brewery. So I think uh I'm just very excited. Anyway, Jeff, let's talk about the rest of the decks we haven't talked
I
about
was gonna
quite yet.
say, are you as excited about Green White as you are about the brewery?
No. So I think a continued thing when we talk about these decks and the percentages that we're seeing just feel so off to me. And I don't know if that's because I'm just like not doing well. Do you also feel like these are not in the right order for you? There always seems to be a couple outliers that were like, but for the most part, it seems kind of right.
Yeah.
This list feels so weird to me.
So I don't think this is how I would have ranked the top. Like, I think the top five and the bottom five are kind of generally true. I would have maybe
Hmm.
swapped a couple, but the list makes sense to me from the point of view of these are what I had as the best color. It's just like matching the best color pairs all the way down the list, kind of.
Hmm.
And like the medium colors are in the middle, and then like, you know. Um, so I'm not super surprised to see these win rates. I think there is an aspect of some of these decks are obvious, like knights,
Hmm.
how to build them, and some of the decks are less obvious. So I think these
Right.
win rates will switch around a little bit as people
Okay.
figure it out. Right now, it looks to me like it's literally just blue's the best color. All the blue decks are doing well. Black's like maybe white's second. I don't know, but like black's second best
Yeah.
color. The black decks are doing relatively well, but not quite as well as the blue decks. Like that seems like what this list is basically telling me. Um,
Yeah. And so then green white is 55.3%. The theme is +1/+1 counters, which honestly, with this deck, I think like you kind of have to lead into. And for me, it always feels like it comes up short. I've played this deck. I've built it wrong, I'm sure, and it has felt like I haven't had a bunch of the payoffs. I've had a couple of them, but for the most part, it just never feels good. Never feels like I get there.
okay, so I have a theory about green white, um, and it's based on a single draft that I did. So
Hmm.
there's a sample size of one, guys. It's not a statistically significant sample, but take
Yeah.
it for what you will. Um, the strength of green white, in my opinion, is that it has a crap load, like a metric ton of two drops that scale well into the late game. They're all like uncommons, a couple of commons maybe, but you have like your Shauna's, Botanical Brawler, even like um, what's the white demigod. But like
Oh,
it's just all of
Daxos.
these creatures that are two drops
Hmm.
and just get bigger as the game goes on. And I drafted green white and basically ended up in a deck that had a ton of two drops, but they all felt like they weren't two drops because so on turn four, I would play two of these and they would both be like reasonable turn four plays.
Hmm.
And that deck was one of my early trophies. And I was like, I wonder if this is like a real thing that I can recreate where the way I'm trying to build green white is to just have two drops that scale into the late game, um, and kind of focus on that as my theme.
Gotcha. Okay.
Basically, just take more two drops than you normally would.
Hmm.
Um, and you should already be taking more two drops than you think you should. And so maybe that's the real success of my deck is I literally always had a two drop. Um, but there's just a lot of it has a lot of two drops, like, and you can even count some of the Phyrexian ones that like
Hmm.
switch. Like I know technically the the one is red white, the Phyrexian two drop, but like
Yeah.
you don't care.
Yeah, it doesn't. Technically, it's red white, but like you can play it in whatever deck because everyone does anyway, and you
Sunblessed
should be
Guardian, I'm
so
talking
good.
about, but
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
because
So just take two drops and like pump spells, and you'll always have a two drop early, and you're not embarrassed to have that two drop later in the game.
that's true. Because two drops for we'll talk about this with red white a little bit too, but like having a two drop is so important for backup
Mm-hmm.
because you like your entire game like just gets crumbles without a two drop. And I think what you were specifically saying is also that like the Legends of the Multiverse two drops can be fantastic in this deck, which is like if you can open an Anafenza Kintry Spirit or Daxos Blessed
Oh,
by
I
the Sun,
love that card.
right?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot this deck can be like hinged on some of those things, which a bunch of these cards go around a lot. Like people aren't always super interested in like a double white card that like I mean, Anafenza is not a great example because it's fantastic. Daxos will go around because it's a little bit,
Right.
it's not as good, obviously. Um, but being able to have early plays like you want in every single deck, but if you're putting counters on things or your cards come down and care about putting counters on stuff, you have to have creatures on the battlefield. Um, the thing that can be hard is that like black has so much good removal that you can just get wrecked sometimes. I feel
Right.
like
And
you could.
that's why, again, I love my 2-drop strategy,
Mhm.
because if someone spends a removal spell on a 2-drop, how wrecked do you feel?
That's true. I guess if you're just like loading it up with a bunch of stuff, and right when you're about to get out of range, they hit you with like a, tap three of their creatures, give it -3,
Yeah,
-3,
yeah,
and you're like, where's the free spells? What's with the free spells? So,
exactly. And that's why I'm talking about the cards that just scale on their own, like
mhm,
the Shauna's, Botanical Brawler is the one that whenever you put a counter somewhere else, it gets a counter.
mhm,
And so it's like, or your Daxos or whatever. Or even I guess the Phyrexian ones are less good of an example because you invested mana to flip them and
yeah,
then you get owned by removal. But it has a surprising amount of creatures that just get good, and then
mhm.
anything's good on turn two. Um, I don't know. It's tough to like call it the archetype because I think almost every card I've talked about is an uncommon.
Mhm.
So it's not like, you know,
It's not reliable.
right. But I don't know. There's so many of them. I think there are at least like six of these cards that are 2-drop uncommons in green and white that scale into the late game.
Mhm,
It's not unreasonable to get a couple in a draft, especially since a lot of them maybe other people don't want, like you said, Daxos.
mhm.
Um, yeah. So I'm
That's
kind of
true.
been testing that out. Again, it's a little bit the same theme of try not to go all in on the theme of the
Mhm.
of the color pair and instead try to identify the strengths of the color pair. And I think the biggest strength of green white is a lot of good 2-drops, a lot of good two
Yeah,
drops.
I think that making sure that you don't spend too much, like, don't expect your creatures to have +1/+1 counters on them, or like be, oh, this will be good when I get a counter or two on it, because you're gonna die. Like, I've had enough games
Right.
where like I can't block a fucking like 2 3 3s because I'm like, well, I need one more turn and then I'll be able to block everything and it'll be profitable. And it just never comes. Like you just
Right. And like you were saying earlier, like if you start really heavily investing in +1/+1 counters, you're just going to get owned by like Afara's dispersal. Right. It's like,
yeah, and
oh,
things like that.
see ya.
Yeah, which that's why the botanical brawler is good. That's like the good uncommon, but like knowing that like then you're gonna put your backup triggers on the creatures that like come into play with it, being like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm just gonna back up on my own creature or something to make them huge. And then botanical brawler gets big and it can attack, but not doubling up the counters on botanical brawler because you're just gonna get hosed so hard. So I think
Yeah.
it's also
Especially against
just
against blue, you just can't.
you can't.
You just can't. You can't go tall against blue
Yeah. You have to go really wide. So
or
okay.
black or
Or
even white, really. So then it's like, who are you playing against?
exactly.
You're
So
playing
that's
against red green. Feel free to go
yeah.
tall.
So I I have just was playing a lot of white green in the last set, so then like my eyes just go towards those cards now, and I think maybe I've just fallen asleep while drafting too many times that I just can't. I'm frustrated with this. I think I'm
I
frustrated with
think
this
I've
color
I've
pairing.
been biased from having one. I've drafted for white
Hmm.
green exactly one time, and it went really well. Um, so now I'm like, is white green like the secret sauce? Is this the thing everyone else is missing? And I'm trying
No,
to like find that in
no,
the bushes,
I
trying to
don't think
like
it is.
reverse engineer what I did to win.
I think it was
Um,
open a lot of good cards, and
Open a lot of 2-drop uncommons that are powerful is basically
yeah,
what I did. So that's my recommendation for winning with green white.
yeah. Great. That's awesome. No was open, which is the uncommons. You'll have to send me a deck list or explain to me why that's fantastic because I this was the one that was surprising to me that is so high because I was starting to think like this is fairly low. So the
Honestly,
next,
the reason this is here is because
Mhm.
it's not red.
Yeah, that's true because the next deck is red, and this is a deck I thought was going to be much higher and was one that I have put more focus on than a lot of the other decks, which is
Mhm.
probably why I keep losing, which is blue red, which is it Convoke? It's like 55% win
Yes,
rate.
it is Convoke.
It is, yeah, yeah, thanks. And I have built like a blue red Convoke deck. I've built like Jeskai Convoke decks. The build I had where everything fell apart and I ended up being confused which what deck I was playing. Ended up being blue red, and it ended up going very well. But I was also in between playing Jeskai or playing red white, and I think
I think you made the right choice.
yeah, and I think what's been happening to me is that like packs are just flooded with red cards, and I just think I should avoid red like a lot more, like a lot more. Like
Yeah.
really don't
So
pick red
red
cards.
is the it's weird to say. Red is the blue of this format. Like
Yeah.
if we're still living in the in
In
the
uh,
all will
uh,
be one
mhm,
worlds, um, where red was probably my favorite color in that set. They've just inverted. Blue is the
mhm,
best color in the set, and red is the one that you. I don't want to go so far as to say you can't draft it, but I would say that you need a reason to.
mhm,
Like similar to blue in the last set. Yeah, like you better have a good reason that you're playing red. And I think that's all that's going on here with blue red being in the middle, because blue red as a strategy, like Convoke is very strong. Um, I think it's just sort of a bit of cannibalization. Everyone wants the blue cards, and then
mhm,
the red cards suck. So while the decks that come together of this might be one of those things where the decks that come together in blue red are the best
mhm,
decks in the format, but it's so rare that you're able to like make that the stars align for that because everyone wants blue cards.
mhm. Yeah, I think that like I was successful in some decks because I had Kenra Spell Spear, which is like the 2 mana 2/2 with trample and prowess, and then you flip it and it has trample and double prowess and ward
Yeah.
too.
And by the way, double prowess, I've played against that thing. Double prowess is super dumb.
It's so dumb. I have also played against it and with
Can
it,
literally
and
never block it. Why would you
you
like you
can't.
just can't.
You can't
Yeah.
because like they attack and it's a 3/3 when it's flipped, and you're like, well, I have to double block it for the most part, and I'm gonna get blown out because they play one spell that isn't even relevant to combat,
Of course.
and it's just
And
yeah,
do I
so.
triple block it? But then it's like
Mm-mm,
it's not unreasonable that they play two spells.
mm-mm,
Like
mm-mm. So that card is awesome and busted. It's also great that prowess is really good in this set because it also triggers off of playing battles and stuff. Or
right. That's the thing you don't quite realize, I think, on first reading is there's a lot of like non-creature spells that let you uh what's the word like
like,
fill out your creature curve. Like you don't feel
oh yeah, yeah,
bad about
yeah,
having an 8 creature deck because you have
a ton
five.
of incubates and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah,
Right. A
enchantments
ton
to
of
make
ways that
stuff.
are actually creatures, but
Hmm.
don't register in the deck stats as creatures.
So like this card in particular is one that I like. It's the one that gets me. You know, when we talk about cards that your favorite in your draft, Kenra Spell Spear is like, oh fuck, am I gonna? Don't pick it. Don't go. Don't. But then I want to, um,
Yeah,
because I've also been hosed because like this in like a battle deck where you have this and you play the battle. If it's flipped, like you can just flip your battle so easily with this guy, just because it doesn't even matter if they block, you still get it. Um, so I do love that card. And then this one is fairly obvious, but Ral's Reinforcements, where you get 2/1/1 elementals. Uh, awesome for the Convoke deck.
yeah.
Just anytime you can get 2 bodies for anything is fantastic. The thing is that like all the good Convoke cards are like blue. So you just,
Yeah, that's the big problem. Like,
yeah.
I think if you're going to be blue red, it's got to be one of those like, I was taking good blue cards. I have some, and I got past a couple of Stoke the Flames kind of things, and oh, here we are. We have an awesome deck.
Hmm.
Short of that, like you're just not going to get there without the help of rares and uncommons, I think, in this deck.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
uncommons are very, very good, like we've been talking about
Hmm.
for blue red. Um, and by the way, this is the rares in this set are very good as well. Like this is an unusually, I would say, rare pushed set where
Well, there's every pack has a bunch of rares in it.
exactly. So I would be surprised if I'd like to see the stats on like how many decks go 7 wins with no
Yeah.
rares. I bet
I
it's not very many.
How many decks actually have no
Even
rares?
have no rares. Yeah.
I think that there's like usually you're seeing like three, maybe at most like 5 or 6 rares in a draft, and the other ones are just so like the fifth and the sixth ones are like mirror and safe houses from like the last set where you're like, oh, this fucking artifact again. This set's like there's tons of rares all over the place.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't always fit into your deck, but they're everywhere, which is super cool, but also really confusing and hard to deal with.
Yeah.
Because the
I bet the
signposts
if there are
out
decks
there.
that go 7 wins with no rares, I bet it's Knights.
Oh,
Knights
for
can do
sure. It's got to be. It's got to be nice. I don't think I see anything else really being able to do it. Um, but let's talk about another white deck, red white backup, which is 54.5%, is also tied with red green battles, which is
interesting.
all very interesting. Um, but first of all, backup. So this is a like it just as an ability, it seemed like a really good aggressive one, and it would fit into like the Boros decks that we would normally want to play in draft. But it just seems like the red ones aren't good enough or like fast enough or like
So
this.
this is the ranking on the list that was most surprising to me.
Mhm.
Um, I had this pegged as easily the worst deck in the format.
Yeah.
So to have it up here like fourth from the bottom, pretty confused.
I also
Um,
know this is the worst deck because I've built it so many times and it's
yeah, like as
horrible.
somebody who has recently, or at least semi-recently, become a Boros lover in draft,
Hmm.
and I'm always seeking to Boros people out at the start of a format. I only had to like look at the card image gallery to know that that's not the thing for this set.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm really glad that you told me that at all, and I was so privy to it. Yeah, I also looked at the cards, and I knew
didn't I
that.
say it last week that they did me dirty with Boros? I'd done one draft at that point.
Oh yeah, I had already lost my faith in Boros
Oh,
by
my,
last
my
week.
bad, my
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, it
Well,
was.
I think I hadn't looked at the card image gallery yet
Gotcha,
for
gotcha,
everything.
gotcha. Okay, well, just give me a heads up next time.
Yeah. Well, I just assumed Boros was going to be good because it always is.
Yeah.
Um, no, this deck really stinks.
Mhm.
Um, it's not just a combination of the worst color and like a mid pack. I mean, I guess, yeah, mid pack color and white. Um, it's the thing we keep talking about, but everyone has access to backup, and backup is a great ability.
Mhm.
Building cards that are good if you have backup or like do extra things when you back up or backup theme is bad.
Mhm.
And especially when your deck wants to be aggressive. Like you're just going to end up with these cards that suck because you drew the backup payoff cards and not the backup cards. Basically, you just want all backup cards and you don't want any of the stupid backup payoff cards. And then the backup cards are like priced to, you know, not be pushed so much
Mhm.
for the kind of red white strategy. So this deck is just kind of at odds with itself. And this is something they do often where it's like they make some cool mechanic. Backup is a cool
It
mechanic.
is. I like it. Yeah.
It's been playing super well
Mhm.
in all the other decks that are not the backup deck.
Yeah.
And in the backup deck, it's kind of laughable because it's like, couldn't you have made almost anything else the theme and then just have backup be good like it is for other players instead of just like everyone gets access to backup and red white's thing is that we have backup. And it's like, well, okay, so you don't have a thing, basically. Like you don't have
basically.
any.
Yeah,
And then the fact that red sucks just pulls the whole deck down.
yeah, as opposed to like only white and red cards have backup, and so that makes sense. And then like
Right.
any cards that touch those get backup. But of course, green has to have backup so it can help with the +1/+1 counter synergies with white, and then blah blah blah, all that stuff. So
Blue has backup.
for
And
like,
stupid
yeah.
fucking hexproof thing.
Anyway, I will say like, so a card that would be an example of like what seems to me like a weird, like I don't know, seemingly backup centric card is like Scrappy Bruiser, which is the
Yeah.
4 mana 3/4 that when it attacks, another attacking creature gets +2/+0 and gains trample, and then you return that creature to its owner's hand at the end of the combat. So this is a weird card because like it's it well, first of all, you're returning cards to your hand, which seems terrible. But then you think, okay, maybe if I return a backup creature, then I can replay it and get another counter and give more abilities to other people. But like the raccoon also has to attack with it. Sorry, this card, Scrappy Bruiser, is a raccoon. Um, it has to attack with it, so this will happen. So you usually can't do it very often because it will die because creatures end up just scaling and getting big and like killing a 3/4. Like it just happens like often. Um, and having to replay your cards sucks. Like it's not good. So the only time this has ever been good is when they just all they needed was trample and then I died. And like that's basically all I was pushing back from.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the buzzword for this set is if you take anything away, it's a tempo set.
Mm-hmm.
So now think about the tempo of returning your own creature to your hand.
Yeah.
That
Terrible.
tells you why this card stinks.
I understand. So this is the reason the card was made. Has to be because doesn't this work with Blitz, where like you can return the creature that you blitzed to your hand before it dies? So like, cool. You made a limited card for a mechanic that's not in the set and not even in the Multiverse Legends or anything. So
Right. It's like,
what is this
where
card?
is anyone doing that?
What
What
is
for
this
that?
for?
Nobody
Like,
plays Blitz in Constructed.
no,
Nobody's going to play this in Constructed.
it's for your Blitz commander deck. That's what it's for.
I
Your
see.
Riveteers commander deck. Anyway, that card has just been so annoying to me, and it keeps going right. I see it so often because it goes around the table forever. It's just like,
Yeah. It's one of
uh,
those like, and that should tell you all you need to know, right? The uncommon that synergizes with the strategy
from another set.
is no, but I mean like it's
Oh,
meant to
okay.
synergize with backup in
Backup. Yeah,
this
yeah,
set,
yeah.
right? Like you pick up your backup card and you
Hmm.
keep playing it. But then you have to attack with the backup creature that's targeting something else to get the
Yeah.
value.
So
Like it
it's
just
not
doesn't
big
make sense.
enough, and
And
then
it gives
it.
+2/+0, I guess, but it's gonna die. So like
Yeah. So like, what the fuck is the point? I don't get that card. It's not good.
it,
So stupid. Um,
Scrappy Bruiser stinks.
so shitty, and I'm so tired of talking about red white. I do think it's the worst.
Yeah,
But
worst deck in the
you
format.
know what's also the worst is that green red is also
Exactly as bad, I would say.
exactly as
Yeah.
bad. And this is like kind of the battle strategy, and I actually have seen this deck kind of come together, and it was held together by a card I didn't think was going to be the card of the deck, but this person who I was playing against was playing like they must have drafted like 5 war historians.
Oh
It,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so it's the 2 and a green 3/3 with reach. It's sneaky reach, by the way. I attacked into it
Classic
and
sneaky
I
reach.
fucking
Yeah.
lost a flyer because of that. Um, but whenever war historian attacks a battle, it gains indestructible. And so then if you just play battles, they're just attacking you with a bunch of indestructible 3/3s, and you're like, this is so like a 3/3 in the set is good. 3/3s are also good, but like a lot of the incubate tokens are 2/2s. Um, and so it just ends up being like an indestructible 3/3 is like really annoying. Now, I don't think that this is a great strategy to just do and like have battles as your main focus because you don't win the game when just inherently you don't absolutely win games when you do that. Well, flip
Right.
battles, that is. But this is a deck I'm more interested in building. Is the War Historian battle deck seems hilarious to me. Like like not trading stuff off to get battles is basically what I'm thinking. Like the inherently battles can be frustrating where you like attack them and then you have to lose creatures and all you do is gain a better creature, but like I don't love losing creatures for a battle, which I guess is the funny thing about it. That's probably why there's so many bounce spells, so you can like tempo out people to get battles one for free, which is why some of the blue ones are pretty good. Specifically talking about like Kamigawa one that freezes somebody and then you get a flyer. But I just love this like 3/3 indestructible battle attacker, war historian, which I think I should just draft more if I'm playing green, just like 3 mana 3/3s. But it's
Yeah, the reach on this is super secret, by the way.
yeah,
This thing does not look like it should have reach at all.
it doesn't have
And
a bow
the
or
name
anything.
doesn't give away that it should have reach. The
Mm-mm.
creature type doesn't give away that it should have reach. I guess it's sitting in a tree, I think, but like
Yeah,
it's hard even to see that that's what's happening. um, yeah, I'm also curious about the templating. Like it says it has indestructible as long as it attacked a battle this turn instead of just being an attack trigger. I guess that's so that you have to like wait to see what you can't wait to see what I attack.
yeah.
But even like, come on, this thing's attacking a battle. What do I have to be a friggin' psychic to know that the 3/3 that gets indestructible attacks battles is going to attack the battle? Um, yeah, green red also stinks.
Yeah,
It suffers from the classic problem of like, oh, it's battle themed. Now, think about what happens when you have too many battles. Like you just draw a bunch of battles and you can never flip any of them because you don't draw your creatures.
mm-hmm.
So you have to do that balancing act that usually blue red spells has to deal with, which is where like I need creatures in order for the spells to be good, but I need spells in order for the creatures to be good.
Yeah.
And like it's just hard to strike that. And then red green just compound that with the fact that red really sucks. And like I mean, I don't know. What are you looking for? Like 6 battles in this deck, 5 battles. Don't do much more than that because you can't afford to. Then you're playing a bunch of red and green creatures.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I think I played this deck with like middling success. I think I probably went like 3/3, but like of all the cards,
A
I
hyper successful run for you in
yeah,
this
it
format.
was because I'm not even like I've had the most O3s I've had in like since we've done the podcast. I'm not even kidding. It's and I haven't even been drunk the whole time. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Um
just most of the
I
time.
just fucking suck. Anyway, um I do like of battles and battles that don't specifically do something to the battlefield. Invasion of Urgamon is a battle I do like, which is the Gruul battle. So it's like um, red green for a 5 defense one, but when it enters, you create a treasure token and then discard a card and then draw a card. Flipping it doesn't really matter because you flip it and it turns into a rhino that lets you discard a card and then go get a land or a battle from your deck,
Yeah.
which is fine. But honestly, just you're like for a 2 mana play to like ramp and fix your hand in a color combination that doesn't normally get to do both of those things at the same time. I just enjoyed that card itself. Just like a hey, 2 mana, get a play a 4 drop on turn 3 and get rid of this extra land or this whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Ends up being good-ish. Good. I don't know. I wonder if like this card of battles that go to standard, how important this card would be because it has more of those like it has like Fable of the Mirror Breaker like things like words on it
Oof,
that
high praise.
I just mean in a sense of like, hey, this is a card that it says create a treasure token, discard cards,
Yeah,
draw cards. So anytime now when I see cheap cards that say shit like that, I'm like, is this going to be
it
good?
literally is like mini Fable, right? It comes in and makes one
Mm-hmm.
treasure token, then it does
Mm-hmm.
loots once,
Yeah,
and then it turns into a
and
creature.
it could turn into a creature that would also draw you a card. So,
Yeah,
um, I could. Sorry, it doesn't draw you a card. It filters a card because you have to discard for it. But
right.
um,
Yeah, I think maybe that's where green red fits into this format. It's just like as a base for a multicolor deck. I think.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the treasure is super helpful if you're trying to cast like Niv Mizzet Reborn or something, which is actually where I think that must have been the deck I was playing it in. That's why I liked it because I had that actually makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, cool. Up next we have wah, wah, black red.
Woof.
Bummer. Um, I don't think this is this low. I don't think this is the second lowest
I
deck in the format.
completely agree that it's not that low. It can't be.
I think this is maybe blue red's the best red deck, but I actually think this is the best red deck other than blue red, probably just because blue is so good. I keep going back. I keep going back.
I
I
just
would
love.
say like this has been the best red deck for me.
Mhm.
But then I'm just like, well, blue's just so good that probably by default, blue red is the best red deck. You know what I mean? But that's what I keep waffling on. I'm stuck in that loop.
Yeah.
Uh, Again, I think you just play black red instead of thinking of it as a sacrifice deck. Just think of it as like sacrifice upside. Or I've had a lot of success with this is stupid equipment that makes treasure tokens.
Yeah. Boomstick.
Yeah, that's the
Beamtown
card you want to
Boomstick.
play in this deck.
That card's awesome.
Beamtown Beatstick.
Beatstick. Sorry, I was thinking that's a Evil
So
Dead
you thought it was
reference.
Boomstick, and I actually kept calling it Boomtown Beatstick before. So we both, for some reason, interjected the word boom into this.
Uh,
this
it's because in Evil Dead or in Army of Darkness, which is a cult classic movie, but like he calls his shotgun a boomstick, and so for whatever reason this reminds me of that, and so I when I draft it I call it boomstick because I actually really love this card. Um,
I call it Boomtown, so that's so funny. But
Boomtown.
yeah, this card is pretty good. It doesn't look like it would be that good, but I mean, maybe it's just the red cards are so bad that this one is higher than it usually would be. Um, but no, this card is key for black red because turns out when everything triggers off sacrificing, treasure tokens are amazing. Treasure tokens are always amazing, but they're even better when
Mhm.
your stuff cares about sacking stuff. So I think that's kind of what you do in black red is you just draft good black cards, you draft the best red cards you can find. There's not a lot of them.
It's
But
all the same.
then you
Sorry.
take your Boomtown boomsticks.
Yes.
See, this time we have a particular call out
Hmm.
because it makes treasure tokens, and treasure tokens are good anyways, and also good in your strategy. But yes, I did say that I'm going to be a broken record. Stop worrying about what the fucking theme is and
For
just take good
everything.
cards.
It's true. But the Beamtown Boomstick. So I did try to
Yeah.
build a deck,
That's beat stick.
Beatstick. The Boomstick. I tried to build a deck that I ended up getting into a situation where like I had the opportunity to. I had a bunch of the Great Sword or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um,
Ramosian Greatsword.
yeah, Ramosian Greatsword, which is also pretty bonkers when you have a bunch of little like 1/1s or 2/2s running around because this card ends up just trading with everything.
Yeah.
Or sorry, it makes all the creatures trade. Um,
And steal damage.
yes, so I had a couple of these, and then I got some of the beat sticks because I just like having them. But it's also because I ended up drafting what's his name, Valduk, Keeper of the Flame, which is that like Legends of the Multiverse card that
Yeah,
like
yeah.
makes a bunch of creatures, or sorry, it makes does it make one creature? No, it makes a bunch of 3/1s depending on how many equipment are on him
Oh,
or
right. Yeah,
enchantments.
that's what it was. Yep.
And that deck did not do well at all, but it made me very excited because those are all cards people don't give a shit about. And so I was
Right.
like, I was like, all right, give me all the weird equipment stuff. Maybe I can get like, I was trying to do something with, there's the Boros multiverse card, Rayov Mastersmith, which gives attacking equipped or enchanting creatures double strike.
Ooh.
And so that was part of my little deck that I was trying to build with this whole thing that was like all equipment. And it was like primarily red blue because I also had the aura that gives it +2/+2 and flying. And so I was like, how could I double strike somebody out with this like weird flyer thing? It was
I love
not,
that.
it was really fun to build. It did not work, but it was a lot of
Hmm.
fun to build.
It
Um,
sounds like the story of your experience with this draft format. You've built
it,
some awesome sounding decks, man.
yeah, but they've been
Yeah.
horrible, like really just atrocious. Um, but
But I love the creativity.
thank you. I appreciate that. I have kind of enjoyed it. Ultimately, if I was winning, I'd feel so much better. It with like
Oh, I mean,
anything.
yeah, pulling off the like I built a ridiculous deck, and you don't have to do that well to be really
No,
satisfied with that, but like 4-3 maybe, like then you're like, dude, at four
Jeff,
three and up, you're like, yeah, I
Jeff,
built this deck.
if I could go 4-3 with anything, would be great. That's all I want right now. I'm just like having, I don't know if it's bad luck
Okay,
or
I have the secret tip.
okay,
I'll tell you at the end for how you can do that.
perfect.
Remind me though.
Okay,
I may not remember. So right now I have it in my mind. I want to talk about Phyrexians first.
let's do it.
Then I'll give you the tip on how you can start to win.
So I don't know why white black is the bottom here because I like both of these colors.
This is wrong, I think.
It's got to be wrong because the white black deck with Phyrexians uh, seems great. I've seen a lot of great deck builds of this that have been trophies. We had some in our Discord like recently. I just
Yep.
I don't see that this being so low. Like maybe it's because people are fighting over it or what, but like this is a good deck. I think Incubate is really good. I think all of these like different, this is one of the decks where it you could possibly fall into like, oh, I drew the different types of Incubate stuff at the wrong times. But no, I think it's great. It I don't understand what this is. I don't
Yeah.
it.
This is the huge surprise for me. So this and black red being the bottom two
Mhm.
can't be right. I think those are both mid pack.
Yeah,
And red white being mid pack is for sure wrong. That
yeah,
deck sucks. Um, so I think we'll see this unfold. This must just be people figuring stuff out
it's got to be.
early, so smaller sample size, just a few different factors.
Yeah,
And like I was trying to like reverse engineer this. Why is this deck doing so bad? Is it particularly weak to bounce spells and people just haven't learned that bounce is like the name of the game at the moment? I don't think so. I don't really know why this deck is so low. Um,
I don't either. I mean, like, if it just feels like there are, I don't know, maybe a bunch of 2/2s and 3/3s aren't enough. And like, when an incubate is 4 or 5, obviously it's fantastic. But like, there is a good amount of bounce stuff, or there have been times where I've been trying to keep alive, like the 1/1 that when you like transform incubates, they get another +1/+1 counter, like or transform Phyrexians. So that has been an issue, but I don't know. I still like it. I'm still going to draft this deck. This is not proof.
Yeah, I'm not. This won't deter me either. This is one of
Yeah.
the only decks where I was going to say, maybe the only deck where I was going to say like the theme here is the theme. Like
Yeah.
you're going to have a lot of Phyrexians, and so picking Phyrexian lords or boon to Phyrexian
Hmm.
stuff is worth it here. Um,
Yeah.
like the gold uncommon or whatever.
Yeah. I was going to ask. So, Sculpted Perfection, which is the lore, is the enchantment that's the lore and incubates two. Um, we still like this. We still love this.
I think I'm lower on it than I was after reading the card.
Hmm.
Um, but I still like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely lower on it as well. It's a definitely a nice card to have in your deck. Um, you don't need to pick it that early. I think that it comes around a lot more than you'd expect. a regular
Yeah,
board
like
would.
originally I was like, oh, you got to take this and then commit to black white.
Hmm.
It's like you don't really have to do that
You
actually.
really
You
don't
know,
have to do that.
yeah.
A card, I think that the white one that gives vigilance is so much more important. That incubates
Mhm.
4.
Yeah,
Because
that card's really, really good.
it's fucking busted. The amount of times where I look and I'm trying to figure out like why my opponent has vigilance, I'm like, oh, okay, it's because the fucking
It's
enchantment.
that stupid thing they played a million turns ago.
Yeah, so that, and it just affects every Phyrexian.
Vigilance is one of the most underrated abilities.
It's so
Like
good.
it is, it's like on the face weaker than like haste and stuff like that. I get,
Hmm.
but it's still it's underrated. It's still really strong, especially in limited.
It's really strong. So yeah, especially when you
And
have
it
like,
is worse than flying. I'll give you that. It's worse than flying. It's would
mhm.
I rather have a 3/3 with flying or with vigilance? Obviously flying, but um, like that doesn't mean vigilance sucks. I think people often get into that trap of like, vigilance is worse than haste, and it's worse than flying. Vigilance sucks. It's like vigilance is still a huge line of text to put on something, like,
Yeah, it
especially in
also,
a format with Convoke.
yeah, it's also just that like, you know, vigilance just means like it really depends on which creature it has it.
Yeah,
So like you want to make sure that the it has a big butt. So like if it's like a vigilant 3/4 is like, oh god, like what a
yeah.
so annoying.
I love when they make those 3/1s with vigilance.
Hmm. You're like, what?
So I'm never
Okay, cool.
blocking with this.
Yeah, it's so useless. Like no activated abilities or anything. That's just okay, cool, thanks.
It's a weird card, wizards.
Yeah. As opposed to like a 2/4 with vigilance is like,
Two
yeah,
fours with vigilance are I hate them so
yeah, I
much.
hate them too. I don't draft them, but they gum up
I
the
know. I
board
never take them, and then
and
I'm
then
always
they
like, oh,
I keep
and then
getting
I never
attacked
want to
by it.
spend a removal spell on it.
No. Yeah. It was literally that card from All Will Be One that was like the 2/4, but if you had 2 artifacts, it was a 4/4.
Yeah.
I thought that card
Oh,
was,
I loved that card because it was
yeah.
always a 4/4 when I was playing.
So and the 4/4 vigilance is so good.
Yeah, it was a 4/4 villager.
Hmm. Anyway, all right, we have come to the end of the different types of decks, and the wood percentage as far as 17 lands. Though, if we were going to rank our decks, I don't think we've ever really done this before. But do you think would we squish all the blue ones at the top, even blue red, or do you like blue red in the middle?
I would squish the blue towards the top, but I
Hmm.
think I personally, I don't know if I'd have blue red. Yeah, I don't think it would be like just 4 blue decks in a row.
Okay.
I think I might have like blue black and blue white. I would have had them in the opposite order, but whatever.
Hmm.
And then blue green and blue red might have been like a couple lower,
Hmm.
and some other decks find their way in there.
Probably like
Um,
black red and black white higher up. I think I'd probably rather play blue red than black red. And then the bottom is like red white, red green, green white
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. I mean, I'm still holding out hope that I have the secret green white sauce, but I think
Yeah.
realistically, it's probably like green, white, red, white are all the bottom three. The Naya colors are the worst, and then yeah, I don't know. Maybe blue red is just up there. Maybe it's just they're all up there.
I think they might
Blue
be.
decks are all up there, and then
Your
it's
blue
whatever your black green and your
your blue
black
red
white.
deck like scales higher and higher depending on how many blue cards you have compared to red cards. I think that's really what it
Yeah,
is.
it might just be blue decks, black decks, Naya decks.
I think
Like
that's
that. That's just my ranking.
I think that's what it is. There you go.
Yeah.
I agree with that. That makes a lot more sense to me. But with that, Jeff, before we go to last call, you owe me a secret sauce, something
Yes.
special. The
Okay. So
reason
my
you're
tip for
winning.
you,
Yes.
if you want to start winning this format, draft it like you would draft a core set.
Okay. Okay.
Just have that. That's your rule. You're
Okay.
drafting core set limited. You're not drafting March of the Machines.
So that means that stats matter a lot, and just raw power level is important,
And
which is what you've been
synergies
saying the whole
matter a
time.
lot less.
Yeah, and synergies matter a lot less, and
But to like
battles
to
aren't
have
in the
that
set.
mantra in your head is just it's a core set.
I like that. All right, that's the March of the Machine. It's a core set.
Yeah.
Perfect. Love
It's
it.
the most complicated all set of all time. So forget all that shit.
And just
Pretend it's a core set.
look at the numbers.
Yeah.
Perfect. I think that will really help a lot, actually. So I do thank you for that. But Jeff, I think we should go to last call. So as always, we rate our beers on a scale of bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. And this has nothing to do with what tier you are in currently. It's just a fun way to rank beers because everyone is in different tiers at different times. So don't feel bad when we say that bronze beers are trash. They're horrible. You can't finish drinking them. You have to pour them down the sink. You may even throw them up. I don't know.
Oof. Silver beers are basically just kind of boring. Macro brews tend to fall into this category.
Gold beers are fine, but you wouldn't really drink them very often.
And platinum beers are totally solid. These are good beers, and you'd have these again.
Diamond beers are exceptional. You'll tell this. You'll tell your friends about this beer, and you'll bring it to parties.
And Mythic, this is the best of the best. These are the blue blacks of beers. You would recommend these to anyone.
Mm. Alrighty, Jeff. We have two fairly normal seeming beers in front of us. Do you know which one you want to pick
I
for this evening?
think I've made a choice.
Okay, I think I also
I
made a
think I've made a
choice.
choice.
It is kind of hard because they do feel different than like the names lead them to be, but I think
Yeah.
I know which one I want.
Okay.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Henny.
Henny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
That was a close battle though for me.
I think it wasn't as close for me.
Mhm.
Um, but let's talk about Henny, man. This is so we have been waiting months to like drink like Little Beasts again
Yeah.
since we first had it with that saison. And so cracking open this Belgian blonde, like all the we had spent a lot of time and money to get this happening. And so it was kind of like a do or die. Like, I really hope that like we like these beers.
Right.
And I have to say, I loved this Belgian blonde. Really did it. I was expecting not very much and got a lot. Like,
Yeah. The only thing I want to call out is like everything you said is true. I just want to say it wasn't like we ordered these months ago and it took them forever to send them or
oh
something. I
no
don't
no
want to
no no no
like
no.
don't want anyone to get that impression of Little Beast. It was mostly on our end. Just we had other stuff and yeah.
It was mainly that like we had been thinking about it for a long time, but we had a bunch of
Yes,
beers lined up in the fridge that we had to
exactly.
wait to order them. Yes,
Yeah. Just in case it wasn't clear, it's like, oh man, does it take months if we order from them?
it
No.
does not.
Yeah, so Henny was interesting to me because the first sip I was kind of like, "Mm," but then every sip I liked it better. And then after the first, five or so, I was just like, wait, is this just a great beer? I think this is just a great beer.
I think it's
Um,
yeah. I think it's just great.
yeah. And then the other beer is just up my alley in terms of style. And they did
Mhm.
a good job there too. So that was why it was close. But then I was ultimately like, well, the first one definitely impressed me more because uh, it shattered my expectations. And like, it's one of those things that took me a while. It took me a little bit of getting used to, not too long. And then I was just like, wait a minute. No, this is just
Yeah,
awesome.
I think it like took me two sips to because the first was not what I was expecting, and the second
Right.
was like okay, I'm on board, and then the third one was like all right, here we go.
Right. Yeah. I
Um,
think it took me a couple more sips than that.
yeah,
Um, but still went on that same journey.
yeah. Um, but Belgian Blonde would not be something I would normally order most places. I'm not usually excited by that. However, Little Beasts so far is like I will order whatever I see from Little Beasts because this was awesome. I
Yeah, this was fantastic.
Yep, and I will say, oof, I really liked it. It is still like I'm going to talk about this a lot, but it fits Diamond to me. Like
Yeah,
we've never given like a blonde Diamond, I think. So
yeah. I was
um
gonna give it Diamond as well.
yeah, this is great. It's like full bodied. The alcohol really helps with that, I'm sure. Um, but it's not like your, I don't know, super icy cold, refreshing hot day beer. It's got a lot more character to that, and you can drink this any season. It's
Yeah, this beer was
fantastic.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really liked it. All right, Jeff, Valkyrie. Oh, I might still
Uh,
have some.
yeah. Valkyrie's is pale ale,
Hmm.
hazy IPA. And it's a great example of that. It's just really good. I think it's one of those interesting things, right? Because I like this style to begin with.
Hmm.
Like you said, the other style, not that I would avoid Belgian blondes, but it's not the type of thing that I see and be like, ooh, I have to get one of those.
Hmm.
Uh, Although maybe it changed my mind on that.
Maybe now. I think anything that says Belgian now, I should just pick a Belgian, whatever it is.
But for me, the decision was like, it's a beer that I knew I would like, and I did, versus a beer that I was like, oh, I'm interested to see what they've done with this. And then they did
Hmm.
something awesome. So then I chose the latter in the end. But I don't think that really takes away much from the fact that this beer is really good as well. I think it's maybe just a little less unique, I guess, or like taken their own way than
It's interesting. So
previous one.
when we were pouring it, it has like this, like obviously it's cloudy. You can't see in my video because number one, it's kind of blurry, but number two, it has like a hint of like almost like grapefruit look. There's like a pink hue I
Yeah,
got, and like there is a sour grapefruit tone to it that is nice to pick up. You know what? This is something we don't get to have very often as like beer drinkers in this day and age. Is it like breweries put all the flavors right on the can, and that happens often. It's usually the name is like four different flavors, or like three or four different flavors, and that's like
yeah.
what the beer is. And it's nice when they just say, "Hey, this is it's a Valkyrie." It has no taste in my mind, and
I didn't
or
get any Valkyrie at all
Valkyrie,
from this.
or hopefully it doesn't have a taste in your mind,
Yeah,
and then a hazy IPA. It's just like here you go, and it's
yeah.
just kind of nice to have that to let you go on your own adventure. Um,
I love
though,
that. Yeah.
with that being said, I liked this adventure. However, it wouldn't be my. I like other hazy IPAs a lot better than this one. This one's
Mhm.
very interesting, but I don't know if I'm going to be like referring this to a lot of people. I definitely refer the brewery, but this would not be a specific beer. I think that I would talk a lot about, though it is well crafted and it is good, but I think it's like lower platinum. Um, for me
Yeah.
personally, I
I
think I
had
liked
this
it.
like platinum diamond border, and the
Mhm.
decision was just kind of like ultimately I'll go platinum because it didn't wow me. It was just really well made, I think, for the style
Yeah,
and a good example of it. But it wasn't, like you say, it wasn't necessarily one of those ones that I would go out and recommend to people this specific beer.
yeah,
Although, we're three in, I'll definitely be recommending the brewery.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you did like it quite a bit, or no, you liked it a bit more than I did.
Hmm.
Um, but
I liked it.
I'm,
It's good. But it's a competitive
it's,
hazy IPA is a very competitive slot.
it is. And anyway, great beers, great brewery, Little Beasts.
Oh, I'm
We
so
have,
excited for
oh baby,
and think about this, guys. For those of you that are excited about beer, The hazy IPA and the Belgian blonde were so complex, and those were the most normal beers of the set that we bought.
So we have a lot more coming up. It's I've never been more excited for like a tap takeover. So
Yeah,
this one is like because of a beer we
I was pretty
found.
excited for Rorschach, but
Mhm.
and that one lived up to the hype. So
Rorschach was awesome. I just like that this is one that we both didn't know the brewery till we tried it on the show, and then
yeah,
we found it. So
true.
that was exciting. So, um, but anyway, it's time for closing time. Oh man, it's been a long episode. It's been a good one. We've hopefully told you what to draft, but probably more more likely what not to draft and how not to
Yeah,
draft, which is most things that I do. So if you want to talk to us about drafting or anything, you can find us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram.
you may also find us on MTG Arena under the username Arena Regulars Podcast. It's probably Zach because he ran out of gems on his main account.
That is a good idea. I should go over to the. I am losing gems like none other. If you want to talk to me personally and give me tips on how to be a better Magic player, you can find me at Zulberg. That is ZeulBerg on Twitter and Instagram. But Jeff, where can I find you?
Best place is our Discord channel. I go by regular Jeff on the Discord channel. And once again, links in the show notes.
Mm-hmm. And please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Leave us a review there. Go to our YouTube channel. Give us a like. Give us a little comment, or just tell us what you think. It means a lot to us, and we love to hear your thoughts. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that March of the Machines may be the most complicated Magic set of all time, but when it comes to drafting, it's a core set.
Good night. All right, that's fine.